Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special 58th edition of the Hideout, where we are going to be talking about Web3 and gaming like we always do. But if you guys have been following socials this week, you'll have seen that we announced some pretty cool, important updates in the game, which we'll get into. But before we start, I'll give a quick introduction, and then we'll jump into some introductions of the panel. My name is Nick Frontera. I've been in the space for about 7 years now. Before that, I was a lawyer in the entertainment industry, but now I am proudly the CEO and one of the founders of Apollo Entertainment, the company behind the Satoshiverse and the Legions 2029 game. For those of you who don't know about Legions 2029, it is a fast-paced hack and slash game that is fully blockchain enabled. All of the progress is stored in the NFT metadata of your avatars. You can get items in the game that are NFTs, and thanks to our partnership with Hyperplay, who's on the panel today, you're able to do all that from the Unreal Engine-based game client. So we really feel like the game is starting to push the barriers of what's possible for an NFT game, especially a desktop-based one. So we're really proud of what we've been building for the last 2 years. And in fact, as you can see in the post that I put up at the top of the spaces, we just announced our mainnet alpha is live. So we are in alpha, we're live. The stuff that happens in the game now counts. So if you level up those avatars, you'll see your metadata going up on your NFTs. If you refresh it, you'll be able to get NFT items in the game. All the things that we were doing for the last couple of years on testnet is now live and going forward. We have some awesome tournaments from some of our prizes. We have some awesome tournaments with prizes from some of our partners who are also up here today. So definitely check out the pinned tweet. And we'll go into it a little bit more depth later in the panel. But for now, just know that the game is free to play. All you got to do is have a computer that can play, high-end or decent video games. It's does require a desktop, but it's free to play. You just make an account and you can download the game either from the Hyperplay launcher or the our Legions launcher. So 2 ways to download. You'll find all the information in the tweet. But for now, let's move on to our panel where we have some awesome guests, and I know we're going to have one more joining us later. But why don't we start with our friends at Wizardia? Welcome back. Give us a quick introduction for those of us who don't know about Wizardia. And, we've got some cool stuff that we're working on together. So maybe give a quick shout out to the tournament that people can participate in.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, can you guys hear me there? Everything's coming through?
Loud and clear.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me on again, Nick. It's always great to be working alongside you guys at the Satoshiverse. I've said it time and time again, you guys are my favorite project in the business, and a massive, massive congratulations to you guys for getting live, for getting over on Polygon and actually, seeing the hard work that you've put in over the past few years actually pay off. And I'm super excited to see what you guys can keep doing. So again, thanks for having me. Keep up that solid work. For anyone that hasn't heard of Wizardia in the audience or myself, my name's Ryan. I've been in the space for about 3 years now with Wizardia, and basically, we are a play-to-earn role-playing strategy game built on 3 core gameplay pillars. So you've got your turn-based combat, player decision, game evolution, and the ability to actually upgrade your characters as well. A couple of huge updates we've had recently, which I'd love to mention for everyone interested, is Android. We released that one back in November last year. And a couple of days ago, we actually hit the App Store for iOS too. So head on over and get that one downloaded and actually head over, play some games. We've got a wicked 4-week tournament. We're in the middle of our 3rd week, which was proudly sponsored by you guys at the Satoshiverse. So come on over, play some battles. You have an opportunity to win up to 10 trading cards from the Satoshiverse, some stuff from other partners as well, and of course an ape, one of your avatars, which is really, really cool. Plus, we will be giving away an epic wizard. So come be a part of the fun. Satoshiverse have got some wicked stuff happening, some big launches. So do we at Wizardia, and I'm really looking forward to learning a little bit more about the other panelists that you've got on today as well. So yeah, thanks for having me, and let's get stuck into it.
Super cool. Well, Ryan, great to have you back. And yep, definitely two panelists that I'm super excited about what they're doing with, everybody here on the panel. But a lot of what we have done in these, last couple months in terms of getting blockchain transactions in the game wouldn't be possible without our partnership with Hyperplay. So I think we got Jacob over there. Could you give us a quick introduction about Hyperplay and maybe let everybody know what you guys are building and how we're working together?
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. So we're a Web3 native game store called Hyperplay. It's a native desktop app, and it helps you discover over 60 different games that are in our store. We have the entire Epic Game Store as well. And then any game that you launch from within our store, we have an overlay very similar to the Steam overlay, which passes chat windows into games. But instead of just passing chat windows into games, we actually pass your Web3 wallet, MetaMask or Wallet Connect. And we allow you to do transactions within the context of the game, which is, we're super excited that Satoshiverse is doing this with us. You can do all of the same kinds of Web3 transactions that you do in your browser directly inside of the native games without ever leaving the context of the game, and in a way where your wallet is separated from the game. Your keys are still secured. We're essentially streaming the wallet on top of the game, but this allows you to use your same interoperable wallet across every game and to do in-game transactions without ever leaving the context of the game. So we built this in partnership with MetaMask. And I was previously leader of operations at MetaMask, and I had been working on, how do we get more, how do we get more use cases for Web3? There had been so much growth in DeFi, and then we saw really in 2021 and 2022 that there were millions of people playing games with MetaMask, but for so many games, the user experience was one where you had to go to a separate website to do all of the transactions. You couldn't use your wallet inside of the game itself. And this had created a pretty broken or disjointed user experience. And it meant that, the use cases that that game developers were able to build was much more limited. And the Web3 functionality for the assets was much more limited. It was just, basically like buy or sell these skins or buy or sell these things in a separate website. You're not going to use them that much because you can't do the transactions in the game. And so we really improved the user experience around that. And we're also providing a distribution platform that doesn't ban game developers for building their games in a Web3 native way. That doesn't frown on it. It's like there's other platforms, that allow Web3 transactions, but they basically frown on it and demote these games because they don't have a way to collect fees from them. We're a platform that doesn't charge anything to developers. We don't charge listing fees. We don't tax developers. We have a totally different Web3 native business model, the same kind of business model that MetaMask uses, and we're all about being the most developer loyal game distribution platform and being one that believes in the future of Web3 and that shares Web3 values of decentralization and community ownership.
Amazing. Well, Jacob, again, your team has been awesome throughout this whole process, and I know you're a busy guy, so thank you for taking the time to be on here and kind of share what you guys are building with us. I know we've got a lot of our community members who have recently downloaded the Hyperplay launcher in order to launch the new version of the game. So definitely great to have you on talking to kind of the security and the product itself. So definitely thank you. And now let's go over to our friends at Pog, who are bringing back some nostalgia for me personally with everything that they're doing, but really, really cool stuff on the way that I know about. So, Pog, I think we got Kyler over there. Why don't you give us a quick introduction and let us know what you guys are building?
Yeah, man. Hey, we're obviously the old brand from the 90s. We've got we sold 10 billion collectibles in the 90s with a bunch of different brands. And this digital side has been founded by, myself and also co-founders, the head of collectibles at eBay, the head of gaming at Solana Labs, and then three executives that helped build Unity with me. And we're just super excited about scaling out this ecosystem for gaming, and we've brought a lot of the physicals back. We'll be selling those, and we've brought a lot of the Web3 brands into the physical space through Pogs. But we've got some cool collaborations that are even coming up on the physical side, and then our arcade comes out here later this year, and our coin is dropping actually May 1st. First airdrop happens, but we've got a number of different ways folks can get into that ecosystem. But yeah, dude, we're just we're hyped to be scaling the brand in the the 90s brand here in the metaverse.
I love it. Well, it's always really cool to see, nostalgic IPs and major parts of my childhood revived in a digital way, and I think it's going to be really cool how physical meets digital with what you guys are doing. So I can't wait to dive into that a little bit more. But to take us there, why don't we go over to Spencer on the Apollo account, give us an introduction and take us away.
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Spencer Vogel. I'm the business development manager with Apollo Entertainment and Satoshiverse. Been working with the team for the last 2.5 years or so. Been involved in the crypto and NFT space since 2017 and was in management consulting before that. But I host the spaces now for Satoshiverse, and getting into the format a little bit for today, we're going to start out with a question for everyone in the group. I'll call on someone to start, and then from there, you can just jump into the conversation. Then we'll get into some individual questions here. And then at the end, if we have time, we'll do some more questions for the group. And then for everyone who is here listening live, we are also going to be doing a giveaway, and we're going to be giving away one of our Satoshiverse collectibles. So make sure you stick around until the end of the space to make sure you get your prize. All right. So the first question. So obviously Web3 gaming has been around for quite a while. I mean, I remember personally playing Web3 games all the way back to 2018. So why do you think traditional gamers are still resistant to Web3 gaming after all this time? Maybe Jacob, could you start us off on this one?
Well, I have the controversial view that traditional gamers are not actually resistant to Web3. I think a lot of people, when I say that, they think I'm crazy or something, because we've been so barraged with the trad gaming press has been so hostile, largely because a lot of the traditional gaming press is owned by media outlets that were already hostile to crypto and Web3, and they've really spun narratives that traditional gamers or mainstream gamers are very hostile to this. I think the reality is there's a few things. One, the vast majority of players have never heard of Web3 in games. That's the reality. There are very loud, very vocal anti-Web3 audiences, particularly like in the United States, where people are very hostile to those things. I think that among that demographic, there's people that do so for ideological reasons. They're like people that spend all their time complaining on the internet. I don't believe they represent the mainstream of players. I also think the reality is that there's differences in the markets. It's okay if that demographic doesn't want to convert to these games. We don't have to convince everybody of this. It's kind of like, you guys are called Satoshiverse, so I'll quote Satoshi. He famously said, in early forums, he said, if you can't understand it, I'm sorry, I don't have the time to explain it to you. He tried multiple times to explain it to certain people, and he acknowledged, like, sorry, you're just not the target for what I'm building. And a lot of really great products have said similar things. Amazon was famously accused of being a strange niche thing. Why would somebody want to buy books on the internet? And the response was, well, we're serving the niche of people that like to buy books on the internet. And as the technology for what Amazon was developed over time, and as it matured, the demographic of people that could access Amazon became more diverse. It became broader. And I think that we'll see really similar things like that with Web3. Like, we're at a point of time where the technology is still super abstract. The user experience is complicated. If you watch like 90s internet videos, they're all videos of nerds like me explaining to grandmothers what TCP/IP protocol is. And now we all use the internet, and I would bet that almost nobody on this call knows what TCP/IP protocol is. So it has to do, like, the range of users that we're able to serve at any given time have to do with the level of maturity of the tech. The technology itself is becoming more mature in waves. And when I was in MetaMask, like, we saw this directly. Like, in the very early days, there was 10,000 monthly active users because it was just developers who could use this tech. And then, there was this huge explosion when CryptoKitties was invented, and then there was 200,000 users, and there was, early primitive NFTs. And then things plateaued there for 200K for a long time. And then, we saw DeFi summer, and then all of a sudden there was 1 million users. And then all of a sudden there was 5 million users as, we started seeing NFTs, and then we started seeing, a range of other use cases. And then there was 30 million users. And it was just as the technology became more accessible, the demographics became broader. I think it's totally fine to serve a niche, and I'm proud to say that we serve Web3 players. And I think that our technology is becoming more accessible. It's also like, there's a uniquely kind of American chauvinist. I'm an American, but there is like a certain thing where people only look at the US market as gamers, and they think that the millions of people who are already playing Web3 games in places like the Philippines, Vietnam, Nigeria, Colombia, like, those are huge Web3 gaming markets. There's actually some really great reports that have been written about this, that the MetaMask team did, interviewing different people in those countries. And I got to spend some really great time in the Philippines last year. But there's a certain elitism to saying that those aren't real people. And I think it's for the traditional gaming press that sees itself as so enlightened, it's a pretty elitist attitude. And I don't think that we should be ashamed of ourselves. I think that we should be, we should stand up for ourselves and our values, and that we're creating a new economy that empowers people and that distributes ownership to everyone instead of a handful of corporations. And I'm super proud of that.
But yeah, I don't think Satoshi could have said it better himself. I think what you're saying is spot on. And from my perspective, I mean, I guess I agree with the vast majority of everything you said. I think that we do tend to take a very U.S. centric approach to a lot of these things, and I also think that we, a lot of this is being driven by the media. I think that if the question were more phrased as how do we appease the contingency of gamers that that do have issues, traditional gamers that do have issues with Web3 games, and how do we kind of move the narrative there? I do think that part of the reason, as someone who loves Web3 games and is really trying to experience as many as I can, I think that we still have a way to go, in terms of developing really great games that are Web3 enabled. I just don't think there's been enough time and experimentation for kind of the true Web3 game meets use case to really manifest itself. I think the examples we've had of early Web3 games and player economies were predictably unsustainable. And I think that I think it left a bad taste in a lot of Web3 gamers' mouth, not just, people looking from the outside in, looking for a reason to, you know, to tell the people that they were maybe mad at or jealous of because someone bought a monkey JPEG and got rich, and take that and say, well, I didn't do that, so now I'm going to hate on the entire industry. When, yeah, I mean, I think the industry was, rife with plenty of issues, plenty of things that we could look back at and say, yeah, these really put a bad image on the entire Web3 industry, in general, in the press. And I think fairly. I mean, I think it's fair to say that there's definitely anti-crypto establishments. But I also, being someone who's been deeply involved in this space for the last several years, there's a lot of things that the press got right and were just problems with our industry that, have really surrounded kind of the degen mentality of the gambling aspects, essentially, of crypto. And I think that a lot of games, for lack of time in the early days, played into that and suffered from some of the same faults that a lot of the PFP projects and, quick money rug pull opportunities and the ICO boom and, these narratives that repeated themselves over and over again in the crypto space since the ICO boom did so in GameFi and gaming, Web3 gaming in general in that first year. And we saw a lot of projects that weren't very well thought through, and they became very popular and then they fell apart. And, I think what we're seeing now, and I think if you haven't been on the Hyperplay launcher, you should check it out, because there are at least a strong handful of games that really have a lot of potential. Not even for their Web3 capabilities, but for the fact that it's a fun game. It's being developed by, a studio with experience that's built games before. You've got plenty of games like that now that took 1, 2, 3 years to build. And we're kind of getting to that 2 to 3 year point away from, people starting to think about, okay, how do I build Web3 enabled games? And I think that the future, just the games are going to look totally different. And so, while I agree that, we're focusing on a small, very loud part of the world that doesn't like Web3 gaming, I do think that even for those people, some of it's justified and some of it will change naturally as our industry improves and the use cases in which we're, using Web3 become more sustainable within games.
I really liked your input on that there, Jacob, as well. Backed up well there, Nick. But yeah, it's like a whole new perspective on it of traditional gamers not really hating us. Definitely agree with the mainstream media thing. Straight up, they absolutely love to hate. The better something is, the more they seem to want to run it down. And we do see this across the board with any disruptive tech does get a similar response from, negativity, scary, fear of the unknown. And then if you want to chuck some actual money in there, some real world assets, get that involved, and it puts a bit more skin in the game, which does cause a bit of initial hesitation. And, we saw that from phones, computers, even the internet, printers, even cars. They all had to overcome, their own hurdles, their own regulatory issues before they had the opportunity to prove their worth to the world, which is, I think, where we're at now, is really proving that we have a space and proving that we are the future. So it is up to us, it's up to our communities to persist, to keep building, continue expanding, and most importantly, to find new ways to actually develop and showcase our tech. Obviously, Satoshiverse, you've done a great job getting over to Polygon. Awesome job on the mainnet launch. Wizardia going to mobile, both Android and Android and iOS. It's really the way forward. So basically, the way I put it is, when they hate, we just have to persist and overcome. That's our way forward.
Yeah, I want to, I can be a little, we get attacked by the mainstream press all the time. So I can have a tendency to not acknowledge the bad side enough. So I just want to agree with everything that you guys both just said. The thing about the market cycles is that when when we're in bull markets, there's a lot of scammers, and the things that they do are indefensible and really egregious. And then when we're in bear cycles, a lot of those people go away. The vast majority of them go away and go do their hustle somewhere else. And then we have these upticks, and those people come right back, and it's a pretty painful cycle. And for us, we want to try to focus on sustainable growth. And part of the whole reason that we built our tech in the way that we did, of encouraging transactions to happen within the games themselves, is because we want these assets to be owned by real players, not to be just something that's there for speculators, and then the game is a marketing asset for convincing people to speculate on your NFTs. Let's make game worlds that are fun and that expand and prove out new sustainable business models. Because at the end of the day, game developers, they don't want to be making mobile gotcha pay to win games. They want sustainable business models, but the traditional model was not working. The pay to win gotcha model is also failing. And I think that we're seeing there's the prospect with Web3 where game developers can build an initial MVP where by taking transactions on the buying and selling of the assets in the game developers' incentives are actually aligned with expanding the game world. It's not like a one and done where so many games come out and they're half finished, and then there's no incentive for the game developer to even finish the game, and the players who bought the game are screwed, and the incentives are just broken in the traditional gaming world. And if we get this right, and if we really we bring together the fusion of those who know how to build really great games with those who know how to build the Web3 tech, we can make more sustainable game worlds that constantly expand and that really enable the communities themselves to flourish, and for beloved IPs to not be abandoned in the way that they are in traditional media. And I'm super excited about that.
Tyler, do you have anything to add before we move on to individual questions?
Sorry, I just got a call. No, you can feel free to ask that again, and I might have something, but I was just telling them I couldn't talk right now. Sorry.
All good. Yeah, we're just talking about basically why traditional gamers haven't gotten into Web3 gaming yet.
Yeah, we all talk about the stigma and definitely deserve we definitely deserve, I think, the press that we get as far as an industry is concerned. And so, fighting through that is a challenge, but also I think we're starting to get the adoption slowly. If you look at mainstream AAA games, they're losing their audience very, very quickly. And slowly people are starting to come over to figure out why ownership of assets is so important. We're starting to see major companies like Nike and EA start to implement digital collectibles and digital assets into their gameplay. So I think it is happening. I just don't think that, a lot of these media outlets want to cover it like my counterparts have said. And so, I definitely don't feel like it's happening quickly, but it definitely is happening. And could you name a game that you think deserves to have mass appeal right now? I mean, we build a lot of these things, but the truth is if there's not a new catch to it, or something that would bring people in, then I think the market is just speaking that there's just not enough good games to play in Web3 or not enough demand. So I think as much as it's hard to hear that maybe our games aren't ready for mass adoption, and I'm sure that your guys' are probably amazing, and they probably are going to be the ones that onboard. But like it's been mentioned, there are those walls that are hard to climb over, and so yeah, I think it's going to take something that people really recognize, people feel really comfortable jumping into, that already has a mass adoption or already has something, whether it's EA or whether it's like an Activision or something like that implements it. And then those partnerships with like a Satoshi Verse, like could you imagine if one of these big brands or one of these big gaming companies has a partnership with you and your assets, they're able to move into that experience, and slowly those big games will funnel in folks into these experiences. So I don't think what we're doing is worthless. I think it's incredibly worthwhile, and I think like you guys have been all building for the last few years to make it so, and it's going to pay off. It's just a matter of a handful more months as the crypto market starts to move again and people start to see tangible value that they can pull from it. I really think that it's an uphill battle when you're in a bear market. The fact that Bitcoin has started to pump again is going to bring a lot more players and a lot more eyes. As soon as Bitcoin hits the first an all-time high, we'll start to see a lot of players start to push in.
Oops.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things there that Jacob said something before that we shouldn't be ashamed that we're building for a niche. And I think we talk a lot about mainstream adoption of crypto. We talk a lot about mainstream adoption of Bitcoin. We talk a lot about mainstream adoption of Web3 gaming. And I thought the Amazon example was really good because we're getting to a point where the niche is expanding to a sustainable level for indie studios that are working with great concepts to continue to build and sustain and invent and experiment. And I think it's just about having the right mentality for growth. You look at a game like RuneScape, for example, that was built over a period of a decade and is still going, and that's one of the more beloved games of all time, and it took a very long time for the game to reach its final form. Games like Hades as well, kind of these games that start off at a very indie level and play with concepts that haven't been played with before. I think that, as long as we're seeing a degree of support from Web3 enabled gamers, and games are emerging as great candidates within the niche, I think people will have different reasons potentially to play Web3 games and want that ownership of assets. So, while it may take some time to move over to the mainstream, it's certainly can path in that direction as the niche becomes less of a niche, as things are back-ended more and more, and frankly, as major AAA developers discover business models that are actually beneficial to them when using Web3. And that's really, I think, what the catalyst is going to be, is when these major developers start to see, oh wow, there's business opportunities here. And I think that can come from, you look at what Fortnite's doing, what Roblox is doing, which is essentially compartmentalizing their own development and then having, creators and studios from all around the world create experiences that can then be tapped into using these avatars and items and kind of game mechanics that Fortnite has perfected or Roblox has perfected. And I think what we could end up seeing is that on a very wider level within the Web3 space, where games don't necessarily reach a AAA level, but there's a level of interconnectedness that the games themselves become experiences that can be, experienced using kind of a core set of principles and avatars. And because they're Web3, we have that ability to tap into, those ownership layers. And, I think when we start to talk about interoperability, I think that's going to be more important in Web3 gaming than it is in Web2 gaming right now. But you're already seeing, partnerships with Web2 games and major IPs to create kind of additional opportunities for people who love those IPs to experience it in that setting. And then, if someone has their Superman avatar in Fortnite and I build a Satoshiverse experience in Fortnite, now they can take that Superman avatar into the Satoshiverse experience. And I think that we're going to see something like that in Web3 in the next several years, where projects are teaming up and essentially providing experiences in a digital way. But real quick before we move on, I see we have Andrea, sorry, from Theta here. Could you give us a quick introduction, and then we'll get you looped in
Cool.
with the questions and
Yeah,
discussion?
thanks for having me, guys. Sorry I'm a little late. I was stuck in a meeting, but my name is Andrea Berry. I am head of business development at Theta Labs. We are the media and entertainment blockchain company, one of the first blockchains to build proof of stake model. We originally were a video streaming e-gaming company before we pivoted to blockchain. That's a whole other story I'm happy to go into. But I'm excited to chat here today. I see one of my partners on stage, Pog, who's launched Pog Chain, a subchain on the Theta Meta chain. So our Meta chain is very unique, where we allow companies to launch their own subchain, and it's as flexible, or I should say powerful, as a layer one. So it's really exciting to see Pog has established this Pog chain, and they will start to pave the way, I think, for a lot of folks in gaming, but outside and in IP, to understand the benefits of the subchain and interoperability as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrea. Well, just in the interest of time, we're definitely going to move on to individual questions here. We spent a lot of time on that first one. It was a great discussion, though. So the first one here is going to be for Ryan. So obviously we talked about the tournament that you guys have coming up that we're going to be participating in. And then we have a tournament coming up as well that you guys are going to be participating in. So I was wondering, how do you think tournaments in general like these can benefit players and projects involved? And what impact do you think they have on the Web3 gaming space in general?
Well, yeah, first of all, thanks again to the Satoshiverse for being a part of the tournament. You guys are definitely one of our best partners, and we love to be able to give back. And I know we've got, I think, 7 NFTs that we're giving over for your community as well. So it's all in the interest of, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. We'll share our communities and give everyone the opportunity to get involved on things. And to kind of give a bit of information about the tourney that we've got going. We've had 4 partners, 4 weeks of glory, and it was actually the first free mobile tournament that we've run. From the start of the month until now, we've actually recorded more than 20,000 battles, and the daily active users has more than doubled. So we've been able to really capitalize on this, and with the help from you guys, really provide value to everyone getting involved. What I think tournaments like this have to benefit in the long term is actually something we've discussed before on these spaces, and it comes down to like cross-chain interoperability and inter-project crossovers. I think what we're doing with these tournaments and collabs is going to be the first step towards achieving this. And looking long down the track here, I'd absolutely love to see some of your Legionnaires doing battle in the Wizardia Arena, or even one of our wizards taking down some of those Satoshi baddies. I think that'd be a real cool way to move forward with tournaments and give as much value as we can to our communities. As for players, tournaments like this, it's the perfect way, the perfect risk-free opportunity to play, to compete, to win, and explore the industry with other projects, share in the fun, share the love. That way we can all grow, learn, and have these ideas together. And something that the Satoshiverse and us at Wizardia have in common is we both survived that dreaded bear market thanks to, the partnerships we have, not just with tournaments, but like here on X as well. They've all played their huge part in doing so and keeping the entire space alive, vibrant, and fun. So yeah, thanks again for being a part of it. The 4 projects that did do so, We've been able to cross market with, we've been able to touch base with different communities, provide updates. And with so many projects involved, it means we can all leverage on each other's success and provide as much value to the community as possible. So moving forward, I'd love to see a lot more collaborations like this. And, if you guys have X spaces in the future, tournaments in the future, Blizzardi is always down to collaborate. So thanks again. And if you haven't already, make sure to head over and play a few games before the tournament's out.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Well, we're super excited to be involved in the tournament with you guys. So moving on to our next individual question here, it's going to be for Jacob. So how can game launchers like Hyperplay make Web3 gaming more accessible for the mass gaming market?
Yeah, so there's a range of things that we do. The first is solving the distribution problem. There's a bunch of challenges around distribution. Part of it is that before we created the Hyperplay game store and honestly even still today, the vast majority of Web3 games are still being distributed through direct downloads. This is really dangerous for players because it puts them at risk of malware. It makes it difficult to trust that you're getting safe software. So we solve that general problem. Platforms like Steam, the Apple App Store, they're not really open to Web3 game developers. They deplatform game developers for building in a Web3 native way. And then even the more there's a range of other Web 2 platforms that sort of allow Web 3, but they don't allow smart contract interactions in the games themselves. Like they allow the games to use NFTs, but a lot of them, Google Play and other ones I'm not going to name, they're not as permissive as people think they are. They basically force a broken user experience on the game developer. And what effectively happens is the game developer spends more time trying to optimize for how they comply with store rules than they spend on creating great game experiences or just solving the user experience problems for the game itself. So we were founded along the thesis that we need Web3 native distribution platforms to create great user experiences. And we see those as intertwined with each other. The other stuff that we do is, allowing the user to carry their wallet into the game. We're also doing some really exciting stuff that we're going to be announcing very soon. I'm not going to say dates or give away too much detail, but we're doing some really cool things with player reputation and incentives and things like that. We're also we solve a lot of the really the basic user experience problems around games. And our sister product is a game launcher for using the Epic Game Store. And like I mentioned this earlier, we aggregate the Epic Game Store, but we had an open source client for using the Epic Game Store. And we actually in PC Magazine, they wrote an article saying that our application was actually better than the official Epic Game Store app. So we've created a really beautiful application. I think that having a beautiful and sexy user experience is a core principle of everything that we do, and we try to target each of the bottlenecks around using Web3 and around playing games and make those better. And some of those pertain to Web3 native things, and some of those pertain to, we do stuff like allow Windows games to run on Mac OS or allow Windows games to run on the Steam Deck and on Linux. So we try to solve all of the user experience problems that players have and to create a really delightful gaming experience for everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Jacob. Well, we're really excited to be working with you as well, and also for all the new updates that you have to share, hopefully very soon. So the next question here is for Kyler. So obviously Pogs is a physical brand gone digital. So I'm curious what possibilities and opportunities you see for situations where digital collectibles have a physical component or connection involved.
Yeah, great question. First of all, dude, I just looked into Wizardia and Hyperplay, and both are amazing pieces of technology. The Wizardia game UI looks extremely clean and everything, and then the Hyperplay, dude, congratulations on building such a robust platform. That's very, very incredible, dude. So you well done putting together a panel of some very talented developers. Um, so yeah, I think the biggest thing that we're excited about is putting digital or physical collectibles in digital experiences. So the ability for us to not only do this with like the Coca-Cola collection that we dropped on PogChain, where we took about 500 different Coca-Cola pogs from the 90s, authenticated in the same way that PSA does and graded, except for instead of making a physical piece of paper for authenticity and grading, we actually do that digitally and incorporate an NFC chip ID and then a serial number ID on the physical and wrap all of that into the metadata of the digital. And so you can buy the NFT or you can win the NFT and you can actually claim the authenticated physical collectible. And that was really just kind of a use case that we've proven out. And now we've begun to collect a bunch of different third-party collectibles from rare sports cards and rare comic books and so forth. And you'll be able to find those and win those in digital experiences. So the ability to come up and go play an adventure game or to play one of these first-person shooters and win something that somebody had maybe in their arsenal or in their treasury, and then to go and be able to claim that for a physical collectible just really enhances the experience, I think, for gaming. And as a gamer myself, it's very, very exciting to think that maybe I could be playing a golf game and win like Tiger Woods memorabilia, or be playing a first person shooter and win something that was like signed by Arnold Schwarzenegger, or just if you focus on the Pog brand, the ability for us to create Looney Tunes Pogs and Barbie Pogs and so forth physically and digitally, and then hide them in digital experiences, and to really expand that feeling. um that's all very, very exciting to us. But then also the ability for us to bring Web3 brands, like we've partnered with the Board Ape Yacht Club and Neo Tokyo and the Crypto Kitties, like it was mentioned before, as well as D Gods and a bunch of other great brands, Jack Butchers and artists and so forth, and to bring them into the physical world for our 180 200 million collectors from the 90s. And so as we start to bring back the physical collectibles into retail stores around the world, a lot of these digital assets now have a physical component. So I've got my DGOD. We created a one of one ETH POG in our Ethereum collection, and then made 1,000 physical pieces from that that all have a QR code on the back and scan back to that digital original. And so now not only can you find digital collectibles and redeem them for physicals, but you can also find physical collectibles and link into the NFT and look what else is in that person's wallet, whoever owns it. We've also, created a box of like 12 packs, and in each pack of Pog, or each box, there's a redeemable physical NFT on PogChain. So trying to create digital scavenger hunts that start in a physical realm or vice versa has added a really unique element of our gameplay. And so you can think about when you're playing a game of Pogs, which you can play on Solana, and Arcade is opening soon, support PogChain, which was built on Theta Networks. And if you win maybe a Starbucks Pog, you'll be able to redeem that for free coffees or for discounts every time you go into the store. That's a very, very easy to understand use case for like the utility side, but then maybe it also turns into a ticket when you go into a concert, or a movie ticket, and gives you access to a film in real life. And so we're really, really excited about the partnerships that we've got in place to do all of that. But the technology allowing us to authenticate things on a blockchain, and for people to have a decentralized ledger that shows who owns them, and then the ability to redeem them in the physical realm is all only available through the blockchain tech.
Awesome. Well, I'm a big fan. I'm a big collector in both the digital and physical space. So a big fan of everything you guys are working on, and the way that you're connecting the two different worlds. So our last individual question here is for Andrea. So really exciting. Theta recently announced that it will be partnering with the Vegas Knights NHL team to create digital fan experiences. So I was wondering, how do you see Web3 being leveraged to enhance fandom in sports and entertainment industries?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of takes I could share, but I'm going to focus really about the fandom and communities element. So, for those of you who don't know, the Vegas Golden Knights are a National Hockey League franchise. They expanded in Las Vegas in the season of 2017 and 18, I believe. They won a Stanley Cup in 2022-23 season last year, which is exciting. So we are launching an exclusive series of NFTs on our Theta Drop, our NFT marketplace, and none of them are going to be for free. So the intent is to reward existing fan behavior, also incentivize, but to make, not necessarily make it VIP in the sense that you have to pay to play, but just rewarding this existing behavior. So the NFTs are going to blend IRL and virtual experiences. And the goal, a lot of this in the background, is to ensure fan development beyond just in-person games, beyond just your screen at home. It's really to develop the global reach and fandom. So like during select home games, both online and in-person fans are going to have opportunities to claim these exclusive NFTs. It's going to unlock things like tickets to the game, travel, autograph memorabilia from the top players, access to private lounges that are up there, which is very cool. So when we think about like why this is important and why Web3, right? Because technically somebody can argue with me and say, well, this is possible with Web2, but you're depending on a lot of different vendors and a lot of different parties. And you think of fragmented relationships when we talk about Web2. And so Web3 is really providing these fans with exclusive experiences because they're establishing the most direct, intimate relationship with the team. And it just revolutionizes how fans connect with their favorite teams. It expands fan engagement beyond physical boundaries and traditional models. It creates an immersive and interactive experience, or I should say experiences. By using Web3, this is what I focus on a lot with entertainment executives, is we talk a lot about owning your audience, but today in a Web2 world, you don't really own your audience. You depend on vendors to do so and to communicate with them. But by bringing your fans into a Web3 ecosystem, establishing digital contracts with them, it transcends time of that relationship where the team or business or whoever might be the IP, they can build long-term value, enabling evolution of these relationships as circumstances do change. Businesses evolve, businesses pivot. These teams is what I mean as a business, but that relationship stays intact and the value can be added and rewarded throughout those changes in time. So maybe a little nerdy on the corporate perspective there, but I think it's really interesting when we can quantify the fandoms, and it's a win-win for everybody involved. The teams can have better understanding of what's motivating and driving fan engagement. They can be very resourceful with things like, last year's net that's sitting in storage somewhere can be offered to a super fan. These types of things are really exciting to me, that it's through Web3 that fosters that direct relationship that can just be constantly built on and added value with.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrea. Well, congrats again on that partnership, and really exciting everything you guys are working on. So we're coming up to the end of the space here. I wanted to announce the winner of our giveaway today, which is an 8Mo Army NFT trading card, which is a legendary rarity card. And the winner is Theta York at Theta York 1. Congratulations, Theta York. Please send a DM to Satoshiverse and we'll make sure to get you your prize. I'm going to pass the mic back to Nick to close us out.
Thanks, Spencer, and huge thank you to everyone on the panel today. It was a really stacked panel, so really excited to have had all of you on. And I always wish we had more time, but everybody that we're able to get on are very busy people building some really awesome things. So I'll just close first by saying thank you to the panelists, thank you to everyone who joined live. It was awesome to present to this big group. But definitely check out everyone and what they're building here. Give them a follow. If you're into Web3 gaming, check out the Hyperplay launcher. Lots of great games on there. Also, check out Wizardia. It is a really fun, easy to pick up game. It's something that doesn't take a huge amount of time, but the strategy gets pretty deep as you get into it. And now it's on iOS and mobile, so definitely very accessible, easy to play. And we've got a tournament right now. So if you're in the Satoshiverse community and want a break from your time in the outskirts, beating up the DOF, go over and play some Wizardia. And then Pod, again, I think what you guys are doing with outside IP and brands and how you're bringing it all together is really cool. And I'm excited to keep looking at everything Theta is doing, because you guys, the blockchain, I think that you have the right mindset of kind of what blockchains can do to really move the space forward. And I, from our conversations in the past, I'm really excited to see how everything progresses there. I'll close just by saying, check out the pinned tweet at the top. As I mentioned before, we just launched our mainnet alpha of Legions 2029. It is completely free to play. It's a desktop-based PC game. It's available on Hyperplay and through our website, legions2029.com. You can get all the download information there. Jump into the Discord if you have any issues. But right now, this is an alpha version of the game, but everything is live and counts. We have free NFTs for anyone who reaches level 5. You can create a custom avatar featuring a lot of different ones of our partner logos, and then customize that avatar. And when you get it to level 5, you'll be able to mint it for free. So if you don't have a Satoshiverse avatar, make sure that you get in there and you create your free avatar, and then you can mint it, and you'll be part of the ecosystem. So lots of fun stuff there. The thread probably does a much better job of going through it all than I can. But thank you all so much for joining. I'll leave the mic open for a minute in case anyone wants to jump in and say any closing thoughts or words. But thanks again, everybody, and really look forward to seeing what you're all building again in the future, and doing this again next week. We'll see everybody next week again on Tuesday this time for our next episode of the Hideout.
Your new trailer looks sick as fuck. Again, I was just gonna say these teams that you brought up here are absolutely the top notch. So like just looking at what they've built, I may have been a little bit skeptical or negative, on my outlook of gaming until I kind of saw what they've built, and it's a lot more advanced than maybe what I was expecting, to see in the space right now. Because you do see a lot of people who are doing stuff that is so underfunded or so rough around the edges that they're just trying to force a use case of Web3. But these are not that, right? Like Wizardia has a phenomenal game and it's absolutely beautiful. And Hyperplay, again, dude, what you guys have built with your platform, the ability to expand and to play like Windows games on other platforms. Like I've got a Steam Deck and I'm super hyped to download your platform and to start messing around and see what else I can play. So like this is a really good space of heavy hitters, and it's probably not fair that there's not 300 500 people in here, because these are projects that definitely deserve that attention. But I think we'll cut them, we'll win by like 1,000 cuts, right? Death by 1,000 cuts. Each of us takes a swing at the beast, and we'll make our mark, and slowly together we'll make it fall. So thanks for having us with these great groups of people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to be here with you, Nick, with the entire cast that you bring on. It's been awesome to get to learn a little bit more about POG, about Theta, Hyperplay, and I love the analogy there, death by 1,000 cuts. We are 100% stronger together. We've all survived. We've all built through that bear market, and we've come out a whole new level of strong. And moving forward with not just crypto games, but the entire web space, I am super, super bloody excited. Awesome things are happening in the space. So, yeah, thanks again, everyone, for being here, for hosting us, Nick. And I'm sure we'll see you again soon. Cheers, guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll close it up now, but we will see you all next week. Take care.
Thanks so much.